Emma, qui est chef de produit et designer UI, User Experience et UE, pardon, User Interface, chez Warpin Media, dont l'expertise, c'est la stratégie, le conseil, la création de contenu, les solutions technologiques et la distribution en lien avec la technologie immersive. Donc, Emma est passionnée par la création de produits et d'expériences XR à partir de zéro et elle explore actuellement le potentiel de la réalité augmentée dans le secteur de l'impression à la demande. Et elle va tout de suite nous en dire plus dans son talk. It's your turn. You can start, Emma.
Sweet. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's get this up and running. Do you think that's visible?
Yes, it's good.
I think yes, perfect.
Good.
Okay, sweet. Let's do it. So I entered got interested in this industry around 4 to 5 years ago when I tried a sort of VR experience for the first time, and I was completely blown away and sort of from that day on decided that I needed to contribute and learn about this industry. And there hasn't been a single day where I have regretted this choice. I think what XR really offers us is a more human way to interact with technology. It basically allows us to interact with the digital space in the same way that we interact with sort of our physical space. So with that in mind, I'll be focusing a little bit more on sort of fashion and what Warpin Media has been doing sort of within that space. And I've called my talk Betting on AR in the Fashion Industry because I think it's a safe bet, but we'll go through that a little bit and take a look at that a little bit more in depth. So what can you expect from this talk and what's the lens that I'll be offering? So I'm a product owner and manager with a background in design. So this means that I'm specifically interested in the products and experiences, and I'm interested in the technology that we have at hand to build these. And so I'm really going to try and offer a as concrete as possible approach so that you can take some of those elements back with you. And we'll start with a little bit of an overview of what's going on in the sort of mobile AR space and some reflections there. And then we'll look at specific sort of case studies from within Warpin Media. And I prefer to focus on sort of what we're doing because I think then we have the full sort of learning pipeline, even though there's some really exciting things happening out there in video games and a lot of things going on in this space. So let's get started with, and we can't forget, I think this is sort of important. This is an unavoidable space to get started. And that is sort of looking at the pandemic and the global pandemic and what this has done to the sort of XR industry into that space. And I don't think it's changed the course. It's sort of accelerated it a little bit. And we've seen an incredible rise of sort of digital consumption. And I think what it's really shown us is also the importance of investing in these spaces and because sort of we're spending much more time here. And I think one of the interesting things that I'm going to sort of zoom in on is the NFT market. And that is because we have, and that is interesting because we're sort of spending money on digital assets. And even though this has been going on in games for a very long time, it's interesting that this is sort of moving into the art and fashion field. And what I think this shows is that the more and more time we spend in these digital spaces, the more and more meaningful objects and belongings in those spaces become, which means that we're going to want to invest our money and time. If I spend 30% of my time in a game, I'm going to want to invest in a skin that makes me look good in that space. So I think it's just a transference of meaning. I miss my lobby in my game in the same way that I would miss maybe my grandmother's home. So I think that shows that there's a lot of value to be had in these digital spaces. However, bearing in mind that the digital sort of space has grown enormously, we cannot live there 100% of our time yet. I don't know what the future holds for us, but at the moment we can't. So this means that we're existing in some form of hybrid. And the answer to this hybrid is, of course, augmented reality, since it bridges that gap. It allows us to sort of enjoy digital content, which can belong in and interact with the physical world. And obviously at Warpin Media, we're not the only ones who believe in this. And I've just sort of selected a few of the companies that are investing in some form of AR and smart glasses. And I mean, yeah, you see that some of the biggest players are sort of looking into this. So I think it's inevitable with so many companies investing in this type of hardware and this type of technology and doing this research that head-worn AR devices will be a reality sooner rather than later. And even though it's true that at the moment we can only sort of use HoloLens and Magic Leap to build some of these experiences, because they sort of offer sort of technology that allows us to do that, and the other devices are maybe a little bit more limited at the moment. I think that a good comparison, and a comparison that is often made by people in this field, is the comparison to the mobile phones industry. And if we look back at sort of the beginning of that, you remember what they looked like. It was like a brick almost, with these sort of pixelated black and white screens. And I think that if companies then had known what mobile phones would become today, this sort of omnipresent object in our pocket every day, then wouldn't they have want to have invested in it? And I think it's the same with AR glasses. They're going to become a reality at some point. And I think it's good to be prepared for that hardware and for that consumer behavior and for creating meaningful experiences within those spaces. So I'll just quickly give an overview of sort of what the landscape is looking like for people who sort of want to get involved in this and want to create experiences themselves. So at the moment, the best way to sort of get to the biggest amount of people and also deliver very interesting content is probably through apps. And so at Warpin Media, we work with ARKit and ARCore, and also we use MediaPipe to sort of help out with any of the discrepancies between ARKit and ARCore. I've added Huawei AR Engine because I sort of tapped into that recently. Maybe interesting to keep an eye on it. I don't really know too much about it, but I think it's interesting since they have a lot of users with their mobile phones. The other space where you can sort of get started with is with the social media platforms. They offer their own little ecospace, like their own little ecosystems for exploring AR content. Of course, you're limited to the users on that platform, and you need to make sure that they have the app downloaded and updated. But nevertheless, they're sort of really pushing for that. Snapchat has been sort of investing in this for a very, very long time. And I think TikTok is a player to watch out for. They recently released the Better Effect House, which is their tool to basically create AR effects. And I think these are really powerful places to get started with AR, and for companies to get started with AR with low investment, because these ecosystems exist, the technologies exist, the tools to make these exist. You don't have to build them from scratch, and you can get and sort of play around with sort of AR effects. However, I think what we're all waiting for is for Webxr to be ready, because that will, I think that will be a huge change, because that means that we'll be able to get rid of the friction of downloading apps. It means that you'll be able, if you have a good sort of bandwidth and good connection, you will be able to sort of scan a QR code, you'll be able to access a link and experience, and you'll sort of be able to experience a great AR effect without that sort of friction, which is really nice. And Eighth Wall is sort of providing the opportunity to be able to do this across sort of mobile phone devices. However, it's a little bit, it's a bit expensive to keep your experiences live on all of them, and it has sort of some limitations. The problem with Webxr is that it's not there yet, because Safari doesn't support it at the moment. So iOS phones would not be able to run experiences on Webxr unless you use a provider like 8wall. And then obviously there's a lot of other companies that are exploring this and providing technologies that you can use, but they often come with a hefty price tag. So things to think about in that space. So if we sort of summarize that and take a look at what this could mean for us, we're seeing that ARCore is lagging a little bit behind ARKit. So it means that the feature quality varies a lot across devices and a lot across different technology providers. Trying out a face filter on Snapchat and on Instagram, the quality will be different. And so that's interesting to keep an eye on. And it means that we have to sort of yeah, think about that a little bit, and how we even it out and deliver to the biggest amount of people, because obviously we want to make sure that it reaches everyone. It's not fair. A company doesn't want to launch something that can only be used by maybe a specific someone who has the latest sort of iPhone. And it's interesting to keep an eye on TikTok, since they are a really powerful platform in terms of engagement and in terms of users. So I think it's interesting to keep an eye on that and see what's happening there, since they've recently launched Effect House, as I said earlier. But the future is Webxr. We will all be sort of launching these effects on Webxr soon. So, but we don't know when that's going to be ready. I don't know if it's 6 months or a year, not sure here. And the natural next step is AR glasses. So let's see when we're ready for that. Sweet. So now we can take a look at some concrete case studies that we've been working on at Warpin Media, which I think is fun. So we were early developers for Magic Leap. So this is an experience that we ran for the H&M Moschino campaign. And I think this was a little bit ahead of its time. It was the first sort of AR head-on AR experience that had sort of ever been run at that point. And it was a huge success in terms of user feedback during that event. People were blown away. It was super interesting. The concept was that you sort of were able to immerse yourself into a television, and it was inspired by the Sandberg and Timonen's H&M Moschino campaign. And we brought collection pieces to life. So this meant that a collection piece was standing there, and then we'd have elements come out and sort of, and music and sounds to bring that collection piece to life. Which was really exciting. And we also had some digital pieces of the replicated that you could sort of interact with as well. Another thing that we've sort of looked into is obviously social media. So we've sort of looked into Lens Studio and Spark AR, and sort of, yeah, it's important to sort of stay aware to what's happening in those spaces. And we went ahead and tried out making some wearables for the brand Darken. And so you can see some examples of this coming up. And I'm going to tap into this one a little bit more, because I think it's quite exciting. And what I think that this means is that, as you can see from this garment piece, you can add something like a solar system around it. And I think this is something that is really going to transform the fashion industry, because it's not about what you can wear anymore. It's about the creativity that you can bring into it. So you'll be able to have, you'll be able to wear wings, and that'll have to be included within the design process. So you're going to have to think about, designers. Sorry, did someone say anything? Anyway, design.
You can keep going.
Yes. So designers will really have to sort of, we'll have to think beyond fabric. And I think that's what's going to be really exciting, and what I'm really looking forward to in the industry. So taking these type of effects to the next level. But as you can see, there are challenges. The technology is still not perfect. So, you know, that's creeping ahead. But this is the worst it's ever going to be. It's going to keep getting better, which is exciting. We've also worked a little bit with web-based experiences through Eighth Wall, which is the application that I spoke about before. We sort of brought window displays all over the world to life. And the idea here was that you would be able to sort of go up to that's not moving. I know it is. You'll be able to go up to an H&M window, scan a QR code, bring a digital model, which was wearing sort of key pieces of the collection, and you'd be able to browse through them. So that means that windows are not limited anymore to that physical space. Suddenly you can have libraries of effects, of collections, of experiences. And what's nice about it, especially during the pandemic era, was that you could purchase stuff without having to step into the store, which I think was very nice. But it doesn't always have to be with these 3D models or these, you can also use videos. So in this case, we use green screen videos for House of Dagmar. So they could use their actual model and their collection pieces. But the idea is that it's actually a flat screen, but it follows the camera. So it really feels like that person is sort of standing in the room. And the idea here is that you can bring any type of runway or collection into anyone's home and any space. And I think that's very exciting, again, if you're limited due to the pandemic. So this was really nice. And these both experiences were accessible on most mobile phones and on the web, which is really nice. So you don't have to download any app or have that type of friction. And then I've left my favorite I've left my favorite at the end, which is Create AR, which we're working with at H&M Group, and which I'm the product owner for at Creator Studio. And I want you to imagine that you can walk into a store, take any garment that's hanging up, hang that up, make a design on it, customize it, put your favorite brand on it, and then order it. And that is really where we're heading and what is happening. So at the moment, this experience is sort of relatively simple because it's sort of engaging users and getting you to sort of acclimatizing them to this type of experience. But the idea is that you pick up a garment, a t-shirt, a hoodie, you hang this up, and you can see the physical, you can see sort of on that physical garment, the digital print, and you can customize this, change it, and really create something that feels sort of unique to you. And what's nice about this as well is that it's print on demand. So it means that you're only creating sort of, you're only producing or printing what is necessary. So for that person. And this experience is amazing. We've sort of, it all works sort of with your hands. So you're interacting sort of with your hands with these screens. And we recently demoed it with H&M Group at Web Summit. So if you get a chance to try it out, yeah, I don't know when is our next one, but if we have a new one, I think keep an eye out because it's really worth trying because I think it gives a glimpse into what is possible and what is going to happen in terms of customization in the fashion industry. And yes, so to wrap things up, you can sort of read more about Warpin Media in the news and listen to some talks from our fantastic CEO, Emma Ridderstad. And yes, and please get in touch if you have questions or if anyone is sort of, we're always looking for sort of talented people to join our team, designers, developers. So yeah, reach out if you have any more questions. And I don't know if I've run over time. No, we have some time. So if there are any questions, we can take a look at those now.
Okay, thank you, Emma, for your talk. We don't have questions for the moment. Maybe if you have, si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas. Maybe you would like to talk about other projects or something you.
Yeah, we can share. Definitely.
You still have 10 minutes. So if
okay.
Anything.
Definitely, we can spend some more time on some of the projects. So I think we'll look back at, yeah, I think we can talk a little bit more about sort of maybe Create AR and the challenges there. And then I think also if there's one thing that I think we can take away from this talk is that I do think the time is now to start investing in these in AR basically and exploring what's possible because I think it's changing. It's sort of moving really quickly and really rapidly. And I don't think that what companies will work on now will be a waste going forward. I think it'll be sort of important learnings. And I think that and I think the sort of market is ready for it and asking for it. So they're asking for these experiences to be created. With sort of this, with Create AR, yeah, it's hard to know where we're going to take it because obviously these devices are still very expensive. So I think we're sort of really hoping that it'll become more, I think we're really hoping that these devices will become more accessible to more people, which means that we have a wider audience that can use it. But we'll have to wait for that time. But in the meantime, I think that they create very engaging experiences for events, stores, and I think that's what we're exploring at the moment.
We get a question.
Okay, nice.
So what about prices to produce virtual experiences, for example, social media content? Do you only work with big companies?
No, we work with, we do not only work with big companies. And I think that the prices for working on social media are relatively low. It just depends on the type of content that you want to produce. So the expense there doesn't come from the technology because it's already built, but it comes from the level of animations or 3D models that you would like. And I'd say that at least at Warpin Media, our prices would be sort of comparable to other studios that specialize in this.
Okay, thank you. And about the project you're talking about, when is going to happen?
Yes, everybody asked that.
A date or something?
So, no, I think that we have. So we did showcase the experience at Web Summit this year. So it was available to try it out. And all of these experiences that I've spoken about have been launched and sort of have been out there in the market, and sort of people have been able to use them. And I think these filters are still up and running for people to use. But I think that with these, you have to wait for the events to come up and then you can try them out. But I assume at some point they will be everywhere. So the moment that AR glasses sort of become a part of the consumer market, then I think these experiences will be very quick and you'll be able to sort of, take it up with your own mobile phone or with your own glasses. But I don't have a specific date and I wouldn't be able to share it if I did.
Okay, I guess you will have show us.
Yeah,
but this is a test. It's a sample, like a real. The person is really trying it and everything.
Yeah. So this is like I mean, this exists. So it's difficult to explain when you don't. But you put on these glasses, and then these screens appear in front. You still see the real world, and these screens appear in front of you, and you can interact with the different prints, and you see them appear on your t-shirts, and you can sort of change them, and the print is on the shirt, so it's really on the shirt or the hoodie or whatever it is that you're designing on. So it's I think it's a very realistic way to bridge that gap between sort of, because when I buy something, I want to sort of be able to feel the garment. I want to see the quality. I want to see if it's something that I want to purchase, but I don't want to be limited to the print that is already on that garment. Like I want to be able to do my own thing. And I think this is what's
a high level of customization.
Yes, it's very exciting. I think I can't wait for this to become more mainstream.
Yeah, of course. And we have another question. On one of the slide on AR, there was a difference made between AR log and AR core or something like that. I did
AR kit and AR core.
Yeah, she didn't understand this difference. Could you explain it again, please?
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
So yes, thank you for the questions. So AR Kit is the technology that Apple provides for developers to work with AR within their ecosystem, and AR Core is the technology that we use to service Android phones. So that's the difference. And you need to use both, because you can't just use AR Kit, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to offer those experiences on Android phones. So you have to sort of service both of those environments. And I think at the moment, obviously, because it depends on the Android device, of course, but in general, iPhones are pretty powerful. So some of the experiences may be a little bit more advanced on AR Kit, but I think they're both sort of equaling themselves out. And there's other tools that you can use to try and match those across the different platforms. I don't know if does that answer the question?
Okay, I don't know if the person, is it okay for you? Do you understand better? So we'll see. She will answer maybe on the chat.
Okay.
And if you want to check, you can also read the questions in case you want to see.
In case.
Okay, so nearly the end. We have still 2 minutes. If you want to conclude or anything you want to add before we go to the next step for the program.
I don't know. I think, I enjoy going through it a bit more concretely and sort of looking at those things. And I think if anyone sort of has any further questions or interests in sort of this field and specifically what Warpin Media can offer, then please reach out. We have another question, is that right?
Yes, she's saying thank you for your answer. So
super nice. Lovely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Emma, for your talk.
Il y a une dernière
sharing the future.
No, thank you.
Une question.
Ah, pardon. Il y a une question encore? And last question. I didn't see it. Does the mark goes into a standard regarding AR technology?
I just want to clarify with this question. Does this mean like where we think the because now we have lots of different sort of spaces and ecosystems where we can create AR stuff. Does this mean where we think we'll be developing stuff in the future? I'm not sure if I'm fully following.
Maybe you can make it clearer.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I don't. So I think it's going to be Webxr.
Yes.
So I don't know, because obviously these social media platforms are very powerful as well. But Webxr, if it'll be a little bit behind the quality, I think, of the tracking will be a little bit behind on Webxr. But I think Webxr is the future 100%, because I don't need to download any app. I don't need to have an account anywhere. I don't need to sort of be part of a network. I can literally put my phone somewhere and download any experience anywhere. So when Webxr is ready, which is super exciting, I think, to all sort of developers and designers out there in this space, then I think that's where we'll see most of the sort of, at least these type of experiences being built, because then they're accessible to the biggest amount of people as well, with least friction.